Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? Dan Tom here, host of the Protect Your Neck podcast, analyst whose work you've seen at MMAJunkie.com and Action Network. But on this here program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here today, tonight. Whenever you're listening to this, hopefully it's for the fight. Recording this at my usual time, slightly late time, thank you for the live audience, on my YouTube channel, Daniel Tom MMA, on Thursday night, West Coast Pacific time. Not sure what time the fights are going to be going down in UFC Austin, but that's right. We're going to be breaking down UFC Austin, as you see at the top of the title. UFC on ESPN 52. UFC Fight Night Dariush versus Tsarukyan. And it'll be kicking off this Saturday. I don't even know what time. Is it an earlier card? I don't even know. Again, I don't know the time zone of Texas, but we're getting this out to you at our normal time. So thank you guys for already piling in and seeing all the normal, positive faces. Oh my God, Jimmy Kudo in the chat. Hit the like, by the way. Appreciate that before I forget. Oh my man, Jimmy Kudo. Guys, it's almost December. Just don't be toxic in the chat. Let's ask Dan some good, thoughtful questions and show our support. You know, Jimmy, I think everybody's been great lately. I don't know why, so I'm gonna, just pay it forward to the audience and people like yourself, Jimmy, Ghost Phantom, the enforcers in the house, always doing an excellent job. I'm gonna reach out to you guys for the holidays, regardless whether or not you guys are holiday people. I appreciate all you guys do, and the rest of you for just being here, which is really awesome. We got Rain Lamina, the Chronic Combat Conversations of Singing with Elation. What's good, Dan Tom, one of my fave analysts in MMA who fights for what he believes in and stands up for the little guys. I don't know if paint me that nicely, but I appreciate it. Yeah, I definitely have an appreciation for the little guys, the underdogs, in more ways than one. Of course, the double entendre. This is a betting show, so yes, we will be getting to those as well, but we all know what Rain Lamina is talking about. Makoto Kyogoku, the only analyst I listen to and watch, have been narrowed down to the PYM podcast, Heavy Hands, Jack Slack, and Ghost. Wow, that's a great company that I'm in. Thank you for that. And shouts to those gents as well. You guys are the top standard. MMA media is now just hot takes and ignorance. Yeah, we're just, don't forget gossip. We got to stay up on the gossip because that's important, right? Jeez. Anyways, but I appreciate the love there. Speaking of positive love, we got Alvin Yakitori in the house. Hello, season's greetings, Mr. Tom. Your show is always an inspiration to fans such as myself who don't bet but love the sport of MMA. I wish all the fighters on UFC Austin have great performances. Yeah, definitely. I think we're set for a pretty good one, of course, because they're not in the apex. So the matchmakers, did their job, and we'll see what the fighters bring, and hopefully they leave healthy. And I know Alvin feels me on that one. Ghost Phantom, speak of the devil. Not literally is a devil, but you know what I mean. It's all love. Hey, Dan, Ghost says, hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Hope you do the Amazon reads, because I let my friends do the click-through links, and someone may have bought something naughty. Oh, no, I'm going to go check it out. I actually have the list pulled up. I only did, I think, the last 7 days. It's a small list, but we'll see. I didn't read it ahead of time, so which is good. We keep it organic, right? Synchro Wing in the house. Good evening. Excited for the show. I am too, so we're going to get to it. Just wanted to give you guys love. As per usual, we'll get the shouts out of the way. Man, I'm feeling it. Just like 9 days. I've worked out the last 7 out of the last 9 days. That's a good ratio for me. I haven't done that for a while, like since last year, like in camp and shit obviously. Already slinging the curse words, but I only bring that up because, oh man, I just realized I got to re-up on my turmeric, and if you want to, I suggest checking out my guy D-Loves Turmeric Tonic. You just do the little underscores to follow them on Twitter, on Instagram. I was on Twitter as well, actually, but Instagram, you got the stories, you got the actual product there with the lemon juice, the ginger, and the turmeric. You go to theturmerictonic.com, which is my guy D-Love's site. Type in Protect15 to get 15% off your next order. I'm going to have to get on one myself. And of course, if you want to support this here free show, there's ways to do it that was alluded to, but I want to at least get to some business before we do that. We'll do the usual recaps. These are like 2 weeks cold, more than a week cold, so they're going to be really quick, just result recaps, folks. Again, I've been trimming the fat a lot in my defense for my talkative ass, so we're going to keep trying to do that. And then we'll do the quick reads. I also got the iTunes reviews, a couple of fresh ones there that I've been promising to read you guys. So we'll just knock those all out really quickly. It sounds like a lot. It's going to be quick. And if you're listening in the future on iTunes, speaking of which, you want to add to the 5-star ratings and reviews to get shouted on this show. If you're not live on YouTube or on the chats and so to speaks like that, of course, 5-star ratings and reviews help a lot, and you can check the timestamps as you can if you're watching in the YouTube version in the future, not a part of the live audience. I add these after the show. I record them, and I'll get you guys more detailed timestamps so you can skip ahead and, suffer with my voice less. But yeah, we had rounding the shouts into last week to kind of work backwards here. Hope you guys, at least, I didn't leave you hanging last week, at least, and on the week off, despite the craziness and whatnot. I've been doing my, doing as best as I can, despite the hurdles and this and that. This is the first actually show on a new machine, so this is pretty cool. I still haven't had time to bust open this or some other things that were kind of a Black Friday-ish, although this actually got before Black Friday because the Macs released their new model, so there was a lot of shakeups. And, so I'm just still doing upgrades, to be honest. But I should be able to finally use that air quote new camera that I bought 2 years ago with gambling winnings to get that YouTube look. So maybe my next week. But yeah, still upgrading slowly but surely. Still using the winnings and stuff and reinvesting right back in the show. And still hitting you guys at the top 5 as I did last week. So it was the top 5. I can't even remember these shows anymore, man. Shout out to my guy Spencer, who was 2 shows ago for top 5 rematches. That was fun. That's right, my guy Miguel Class, of course. Top 5 body. How did you forget about the body shots, Dan? So much stuff going on. Apologies. But yeah, I'm going to have the elongated article dropping at Junkie and the Coming. And then before that, of course, it was Bellator 301. They had their last show. We just went 1-1 on that with, I should have not taken the air quote value shot on Pettis despite the pick being mixed for the reasons of the back exposure. Again, I said I should have listened to, but I did always never be afraid to fade public money, folks. You're not going to win them every time. Of course not. You cannot expect that. But even this year, we've been having a lot of lessons of the, fading the public as far as backing veterans because, death taxes and MMA gambling and MMA gamblers just getting, their dicks soggy over anybody over 33 years old. Young TikTok generation. You're a boomer, Dan, so what are you going to say? But yeah, so we went 1-1 because I did catch Stotts, of course, who, again, another one of my favorite things too, giving underdogs odds on the rematch and the guy who won the first, or the fighter who won the first fight, especially when it's not forever later, it's still within relevant timing. It's thank you, I'll take it. But yeah, I actually don't have the results up there, so we'll skip down to UFC. We went 8-5-1 overall. It's 8 minutes. We recap UFC. 1-2-1 in straight plays. 1-1 in totals. 1-for-6 in round flyers. 0-3-1. We keep getting pushes and shit for our round robin. It's weird. And then that means, of course, 0-1 for the long shot parlay. So Bellator, we small profit, 22 ducats. And then we lost 23 ducats at UFC the next night. So we just ended up on a big roller coaster just to be minus $1 for the weekend. So I will just be happy that I got it alive. Because like I tweeted, there's no complaints. There's bad beats, but there's bad bets. And I made plenty of bad bets. I went against rules of betting against the smaller, the grappler, the superior submission grapplers in the smaller cage, fighters on my no bet list, and so on and so forth, as I'll just quickly run through results. Of course, Brandon Allen defeated Paul Craig. The over was my best bet. Again, the biggest bets of the night tend to hit more often than not, thankfully, so at least I'm not too crazy win, lose, or draw. And, of course, the Scottie Pippen round 3. Thank you. I'm glad to see that catching on. I'll definitely retweet anybody giving the Scottie Pippen round 3 shouts, especially when, or just the Scottie Pippen flyers when the .33 units hit, right? Of course, that hit for Brendan Allen in round 3. So that definitely stopped the bleeding. Otherwise, it would have been a crappy night. Michael Morales defeated Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews. I didn't watch too much of this one. It felt like Jake Matthews was actually, fighting pretty decently. But that athletic opportunism. There's still a lot of development, so I don't want to say too much. But at the same time, shout out to my guy Fanyo. I did catch the early prelims podcast this week, as you should every week, folks. Fight Site podcast feed. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of his style. Yep. This was a big miss. Chase Hooper defeated Jordan Levitt. It was just kind of a silly fight, I guess. I mean, I don't, it just was I don't know if it was so much of a, it's a bad bet that I put any money on this fight, to be honest. But, I think, when Jordan Levitt, they said he was having this kid kind of, while he was walking out, I'm like, oh no, is his head even in it? And it was, and not that I want to compare myself to a UFC fighter, but it's very similar grappling styles because we have the same coach. And, my God, and it makes sense for me to get caught like that because it's Dan Tom here, right? But like going turtle and like I go for Petersons a lot, and sometimes you're a little too obvious with it. You don't have their weight on you, and your arm hooked around their elbow to kind of secure the fat man roll, as my guy Ed Gallo calls it, which bums me out because I'm like, that's one of my best moves, and it's called a fat man roll. Oh, great. But yeah. You can have the guy, an opportunistic grappler can, follow with you, stay on your back, take your back. And especially if you have that kind of pause delay that Jordan Levitt has on some of his single leg penetration shots to even moments in a scramble. And in this game at that level, that's all you need. So that was a wrap. Peyton Talbot defeated Nick Aguirre. I don't really remember watching this one too much. Amanda Ribas went off on Luana Pinheiro. That seemed like real fun. Shout out to my guy Clint. I'm going to be doing his show next Monday. But he had a nice grouping. You know me, I've been weird about these groupings. And then when they hit, I'm like, okay, cool. Sometimes they're not the sexiest. They don't pay off the sexiest. Sometimes they just kind of like save you as a design and you can just be happy. But I forget what Clint had, but he had a sweet grouping on this one. We had like Rebus round 3 live, and then had like an under that still hit. I don't know, but I always love when people are able to hit cool stuff like that. Minty Bets, defeated Euros Medic. I know I didn't have much to say about him on the podcast, but again, that's why I always refer to my quick picks and prognostications, because yeah, that was kind of what I said, on as far as that article goes, probably going to survive the storm. I don't usually use high percentage wrestling choices, unless I'm talking about like Usman, but I did with Oral Boy, and sure enough, it showed up there. Anderson Brito, just feel good, we hit this one, this dog shot, and it just felt good, just because, Jonathan, nothing against Jonathan Pierce, but that's just, talking crap, do something, and Anderson Brito did something, and it went balls is hot. That was great. Miss Jose Johnson versus Chan Enheliger. Didn't watch Christian Leroy Duncan versus Dan T. Luden. I even missed Mick fucking Parkin. Sorry, my English listeners there. Kyle Machado. Jekka Seregi, I did catch that knockout over Lucas Alexander. That was sweet. Didn't watch Alien Perez versus Lucy Puddle of Love. Trey Ogden versus Nicholas Mata. Of course, I bet on my guy Mata, but again, I keep that same energy. I didn't feel great about getting a push because I felt for Ogden bettors there. And Ogden himself, obviously, mainly the fighter. That was kind of trash how that shook out. Was cool to see Mata back in the gym though. I think he was in there and he was like one of the only fighters I saw in there like Thanksgiving. Not that there are fighters in there in Thanksgiving, but gym was technically closed, so some of us weren't supposed to be there. But yeah, he was on there working the treadmill, just things you don't see. You could just you forget, man. It's not that they have a game next week. They gotta this stuff sticks with them and. It looks like he's trying to stay ready, which he should be, in this climate, right? Rafael Estevan defeated Charles Johnson. That was such a pain. Again, that was my middle bet list. Like, why did I bet Charles Johnson? I set this up again. Like, whether I bet him or bet again, it's just every time. And then not only that, with my weird subjective sample size of betting aside, there's just also the frustration of Charles Johnson not turning it up in round 3 when he needs to, when that is clearly what needs to happen and clearly should have been known what the style dynamic presented at the matchup beforehand as well. The coaches sure as shit knew. The coaches were just screaming. So yeah, all right, that's that. Gonna clean up the chat real quick and then we'll move on. Rain Lamina, Chronic Combat Conversations, had Mike's MMA picks. It was an awesome show, and most of the PNYM boys came into the show to support. You guys are awesome. Oh, that's awesome. Shouts to those guys. Shout out to Mike as well, and the Chronic Combat Conversations guys. I screwed up the shout at the end of the last show, but at least I called myself out on it prior, so hopefully people know when I'm talking between the Chronic Combat Conversations and the Combat Chronicles. Kyle Mack. Lightmare Sworn, been a subscriber for a while, just dropping to say thank you. I haven't seen this name, so I really appreciate it. It's good to know people are listening, and I really appreciate that positivity and the calories spent to let me know that. Synchro Wing, Death Taxes, and Wrestle Boxers dipping into the power side. Oh yeah, it's not just Ghost saying that. The boys in the PYN comments say it all the time. Nice. I'm glad that's spreading around. That's actually making me happy. Not many things I can take credit for spreading around in this space. I feel like the Robin Blacks, the Jack Slacks, all the people that have been doing it before me and been doing it forever, they're usually the ones that will kind of permeate the space with a lot of language. Why I try to keep my filter clean and whatnot. But it's cool if stuff I say catches on too. Hey, Jimmy Kudo, are you a fan of parlays? ? Are those scary from a gambling perspective? Synchro asked Mike MMA picks, and he said a lot of things have to go right, and that's why he hates parlays. It definitely does, and even if it's not your style, like Luca Fury we had on the show was saying, he's like, you could still make money off it. You could still be profitable off it if you have a good edge. And what's your edge? Well, knowing what you're watching, and you guys are really kind to me and all, but you guys are honestly really, obviously we've got analysts like Ghost, but not even just talking about like Ghosts and stuff. Like a lot of you guys are really sharp with the comments that I read week to week, and not encouraging you to gamble. I'm just saying that you'd be surprised on what kind of edges you have from following the sport, is what I'm trying to say. And that is kind of what makes it, is there's no hard and fast rule for anything in life, especially MMA gambling, but playing to your edges. And sure enough, I was scared of that parlay that week, and what hit, off record, of course, and I didn't track it. But I did say it on the show prior, did make the picks, and I did, play it, and it hit, right? So, it can hit. It's just, how crazy do you want to get with it? All right, I'm going to push on. I already can feel my bladder fighting, so I'm going to try to speed through. Dude, I had to step out of the hot yoga class for the first time in 10 years. I know there's a big gap in between that, so it wasn't like I was going 10 years straight. But I'm really good, in shape, out of shape, or whatever, about not getting out of the hot room. But your boy's bladder, oh my God, did I just have to pee. And but I at least waited from to the middle of the class when you have the little intermission, and then the yoga teacher was all said something passive aggressive like, thank you if you didn't have to leave the room. I'm like, oh really? Fucking passive aggressive, Jesus. I don't know. Some of these yoga teachers are just. The dudes are surprisingly pretty cool. They've been running some good classes. Some of you wouldn't expect it. I'm more of a fan of the ladies usually, but some passive aggressive ones there. Sorry, I'm just talking shit as I pull up Amazon reads. If you want to support this here show, you can either go to the super thanks, super chat. As you guys see, there's no exclusivity. I'm going to read your guys' stuff anyways. It's just more of a way so you can get priority or show your support. You can do it post tense too if you any of the gambling tips hit and you're like, oh, thanks, Dan. You want to come back and throw a ducat or something, you can do that. Of course, there is secure PayPal links. You see my social media tag here at DanTomMMA, where you can find me on most social platforms. The artist formerly known as Twitter, while I'm still there, and attached to my library, sinking to it like the captain of the Titanic, sinking with the ship, or on Instagram, really, are the main two places, if I'm being honest. But yeah, there are link trees where you can have secure PayPal donations, as well as mixedmartialanalyst.com, which is my website, the website that supports this here show. Go to mixedmartialanalyst.com. You just scroll down to the right, maybe toggle if you're on the mobile, and you will see a PayPal link. Below that, you will see Amazon and On It click-throughs if you shop at either of those. And if you click through those links, it takes you right to the site. You just do your normal shopping, nothing extra. You leave, close your windows and tabs like normal, and whatever you buy, a small percentage of that at no extra charge gets kicked back to this here program. And it really helps. If you do it through the Amazon link, it'll actually tell me what you bought. Don't worry. None of the links, including the Amazon link, gives me any of your personal information, not even your name. So if you want to have a David Carradine one night in Bangkok, we'll see if we have some dirty purchases, as our chat may have teased. Appreciate you guys spreading the word to help support the show. This is a judgment-free zone, as you guys know. There is no judgment. I will, make poor attempts at humor to pontificate amongst your purchases, but that's about it. All right, we've got, let's see here. Let's go from date range. Last week. Boom. All right, we got Nature Vet Digestive Enzyme Plus Probiotic Supplement. That one doesn't sound too dirty, but I appreciate whoever bought that. Someone bought Oppenheimer on 4K. Is that pre-sale or is that already out? I missed it in theater. I don't know. Then it had like a lot of hype on it, and then my contrarian mind was like, I can wait till later. I don't need to be fucking jerking off over the Oppenheimer. And then I'm sure it's great and whatever, but I'm just, fucking Dan Tom here. Thank you for buying it, whoever that was, though. 4K version. I'm sure that's nice. Iron Seals Tactical Mole Foam Cover. All right, that's not too. I thought I was going to get into something dirty there, but no. That sounds pretty cool, actually. Someone else bought more case stuff. iPhone fit case for iPhone Pro Max, 15 Pro Max. How are those iPhone 15s, by the way? Let me know whether that was you who bought it or if you just have one. Is it worth upgrading? I got the 13 Pro Max or whatever, and I'm fine with it. Like, I'm not trying to upgrade anything right now, believe me, but just curious if that's even like worth it. I remember hearing something about one of the upgrades I didn't like, and I never followed back up. Something about another military grade thing that was pretty cool. I'm gonna go to the next page here. Last 7 to get updated with this week, and we got SanDisk Extreme Microsoft XD memory card. Not seeing anything dirty this time unless I didn't go back far enough. So I'll double back some other time to make sure. Another way to support the show, though, if you go to podcast for your audio listener, 5-star ratings and reviews. 5-star ratings are really helpful, so appreciate those. If you don't want to write anything, just go ahead and click the 5 stars. It's free. It really does help a lot. And even though, trolls have died down, it seems, but, not that I really pay attention, but, we're still recovering from damage mode earlier in the year when we got hit. So, I think I know this is maybe Isaac Spooner, Isaac CRS, Isaac RS. Most dulcet tones in MMA. Dan's analysis and picks are solid and well thought out. I enjoy the unfiltered stream of consciousness nature of the show. Good guests and top 5 episodes as well. Plus the intro music is always fire. Thanks. I'm going to change it up again for this one. If you've already heard, if you're listening into the future. Hung Solo 7. I really like that nickname. Smart, but not too serious analysis. Seems like a good dude, worth listening if you're into MMA gambling or just watching MMA. I appreciate that. That's honestly, I can't ask for much more. Dan Tom is the MMA analyst. Herbish86. Dan Tom provides the best fight analysis in the game. Compared to Dan, other analysts is basic at best. I don't know about that, but I appreciate you being kind. That's me interjecting back to his. There's levels to this game, and when you listen to Dan Tom breakdown technique, it's truly mind-blowing. Come for the analysis, stick for the references. I appreciate that. Great show, says Ghost from YouTube. Hey. Awesome show and great analysis. The habits of the fighters you break down. Come for the picks and prognostications and to see if any of the bets you like to tail. Stay for the impressions of Devin Clark's dad, David. To hear him say Tanner Bowser. Appreciate that from Aces Up Doc. All right, that catches us up on the 5-star ratings and reviews. Appreciate you guys suffering that out for me. Jimmy Kudo says, hey, digestive enzymes. That was my dog who has been eating plants. Oh, let me know how that works, because my dog tries to do that eating plants thing when they have the sensitive stomachs, because it's the typical boxer thing. I've been giving them some probiotic treats to try to help that, but, we'll see. Let's see. Gotta clean this up before we go. Makatsu Kaya Goku. Oh, thank you, Dan. I don't think of myself as an analyst. Really appreciate the shout. Not just me and all the POM boys, of course. I appreciate you guys and gals. Synchro Wing, yeah. Based. Thanks, Dan. I'm not your I'm not on your level or even Ghost level, but thank you for saying that we are sharp as well. My personal experience, it helps to listen to people like yourself. Oh, well, we all help each other. That's how life should be, right? So, Ghost, I am the one who bought the 15 Pro Max case. I went from iPhone X last week. Oh, sweet. Let me know how you like that. Digestive enzymes. 15 Pro Max is pretty cool. Okay. All right. And you are already clearly putting work on that I see, so I appreciate that. Go follow my guy, Ghost, on Twitter, by the way. I retweet his stuff a lot, so if you're following me, just scroll down my timeline, you will see Ghost. Yeah, battery life. Yeah, that's one thing that's going on mine right now is the battery life. It was really good, and now, I feel like it hit a jump. This thing's pretty sweet, though. I'm not even plugged into a battery right now. I'm at 93%, and my fan's not even going. Not the Max, but I got the Pro, the M3 here. It's pretty cool. And it is black, you assholes, in the reviews. It's not black. It's black enough, all right? Settle the fuck down. All right. 25 minutes. Let's get the fuck to this breakdown. How about that, Dan? Yeah, all right, let's go. UFC Fight Night. Who the fuck is it? Dariush versus Tsarukyan, UFC and ESPN 52. UFC Austin. I got to give you guys what I got. It's mainly on the main card. That's where mainly the action is going to be, to be honest. We will go here to 4. Best fight odds is all over the place, so you have to excuse me. But yeah, all right, we've got a headline: Arman Tsarukyan minus 310, Beneil Dariush comeback plus 250. Jesus Christ! So Dariush actually opened a slight favorite, and money has come in on Tsarukyan. Which makes sense. You can argue that Tsarukyan should be favored. You don't have to make that much of an argument if you were to get that plus near even money and just kind of pushed in on that. You can easily show your work, which I will give my analysis as far as the way Tsarukyan wins, because this is one where I kind of fortified on this fight. As far as, playing both sides, so to speak. But I put my name, I committed to the ballsy pick. Which is the dog in Dariush. Now, from a betting side, I saw him almost at plus 270, but I already pulled the trigger at plus 260. Spoiler alert, which looks like a pretty decent line. I'm not a big CLV guy, and I missed CLV for a bunch of other things that I really wanted. So we'll see. I'm not going to bump my chest too hard either way. Not that I do, but I took Dariush for a unit. And basically, I played Tsarukyan for some Scottie Pippins in 3, 4, and rounds 5. How I see this fight going down, again, even though it's not crazy for Tsarukyan to be favored, I don't think he should be a 3-1 favorite at this point. Even though he's not as experienced as Dariush, he technically has more 5-round experience, albeit one fight. And regardless of that one fight, if we saw it or not, most of us would still project him to do better as far as the long-standing race of stamina, right? Output and stuff in later rounds. He's a high-output guy, and he's able to keep it up with wrestling and striking and interchanging in between. It's very impressive. His athleticism and his pacing, to me, are the clear edges, but I don't know how clear other edges, if we're really being honest, right? Like, well, what about wrestling? Like, okay, he's got an edge in wrestling, offensively, definitely defensively perhaps, although Dariush technically has the higher takedown defense percentage. You guys know I'm not a big numbers guy, but that does mean something. And more importantly than the numbers, when you actually go look at Dariush, defensively and offensively, he's always had really underrated wrestling. It was something I remember really, not that I didn't notice it, but I remember really kind of emphasizing it in my own analysis ahead of his rematch with Carlos Diego Ferreira a few years ago. Because, going back to rewatch that one, I forgot how much wrestling was key in that one. When he fought these fellow jiu-jitsu guys, even how much the wrestling was the difference. As it often is in the higher ranks, even if you're just like straight, as opposed to what, gi jiu-jitsu. Even if you're just like strictly trained gi jiu-jitsu, you say once you get to brown belt, like, or you're trying to get to the brown belt, like, you better have given up on just being solely Mr. Guard person. Like, you have to incorporate some type of wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really do, especially as the game evolves. Much less when you have no gi, MMA, with strikes, so forth. And Dariush has always had a really underrated wrestling as well to go to boot with that defense rate. And again, watching the tape because numbers don't represent everything. Even looking further, when he is taken down, he is really quick to attack. Not so much the arm bars and triangles that he would get in his early MMA days and on his competitive jiu-jitsu circuit days. He, of course, kind of evolved with the times, which is nice to see as far as being really educated with leg locks, inside, outside ashi positions, having the right defense when he's in these positions. And I've actually been taking a lot, like moving backwards into certain leg lock positions. Like I've been doing that a lot too, especially because half the time I'm still grappling with wrestling shoes on, and so people, it's a magnet. People are just going for my legs, right? And if it's not a clean spin out where I've really hurt my knees before doing that as well, without wrestling shoes, mind you, getting caught in bad jams. Like getting your foot flat, walking your base backwards, getting yourself on top, rocking over heavy. You have to cross your legs and so forth. Like he does all these things, and I've actually looked at Dariush's game to really try to help guide my own silly game. So it's not that he can't be dominated. If Tsarukyan is good enough to stay out of, even if he can't get a lot done, or even definitively win rounds according to how the criteria is written. We are in Texas, though, folks, by the way. So perhaps broad grappling pressure and broad pressure is still enough, right? We've seen that, sadly. And I'm not trying to shit. Like there's very competent judges that work. Shout out to my guy Aaron Menard there, who does reffing and judging. There's a bunch of other people from Texas as well that was at the most recent ABC commission. So I'm not trying to crap. There are plenty of people doing a better job, and in fact, I'm gonna play into that for some plays coming up, folks here, or some potential flyers. Things I've been talking about to kind of plant seeds in previous episodes. Maybe we'll pay them off, and hopefully they will get paid off. But yes, not trying to broad blanket trash, or, any kind of judging or anything. But yeah, these are things we need to be aware of, especially if you're gambling, right, folks? These intangibles. But yes, even if Tsarukyan isn't able to clearly secure rounds, if he's able to keep activity up, which I think is his best path, then I think maybe he could open things up in rounds 3, 4, or 5. Dariush has he looks like he's tired all the time. But he has one of those things where he's constantly recovering, like Dominic Cruz minus looking agile and light on his feet. You know what I'm saying? Where Dominic Cruz is he almost looks like he's gasping at the end of rounds, but then he's back and he's fine. It's one of those constitutions. That being said, even though I trust it and have stopped doubting Beneil so heavily in 3-round fights, especially after seeing what he was able to do with Gamrot for 3 rounds, right? It's not something that, especially as he gets older here, he's in the advanced, he's definitely, he's just coming down from prime into post prime here, right? 13 to 14 year mark post prime, right? So coming down that stretch where he still has a lot to offer, but yeah, I mean, even ignoring the gray hairs, he's 34. He's not as old as he looks. People in the betting market acts like he is, but yes, he is getting into his post. He's clearly into his post prime here, but there's still keywords in prime there. And again, Beneil he's not as athletic as Tsarukyan, not as good of a pace, but he's very deceptive in these areas. He's very deceptively strong in these areas too. So that's kind of how I see the grappling. That being said, I don't see either guy getting a finish on the floor unless they're compromised first. So for Beneil, it's going to have to be a club and sub, I think, even though Tsarukyan will give the back. I just feel like Dariush, even if he does get the back, I don't know if it's necessarily game over. Not because Dariush isn't good from there. He's really good from there. But I'm also giving Tsarukyan some credit. I got to imagine, training, whether it's with, multiple camps with Bahumpa, Marcos D'Amata, training with Gleison Tibau, for this camp. I know Tibau's older, but, shout out to the lightweight GOAT, Gleison Tibau. I got to imagine, at American Top Team, he's getting better with his submission defense. And again, with Beneil, who controls Beneil, right? You know what I'm saying? Much less outside of a weird fight, an opportunistic sub, which was a Michael Chiesa who would was like trying to hold his shit in, which was really weird. That fight down at lightweight, like outside of that weird sample size, like Dariush has never been subbed. He's never been controlled. Like the most controlled time he's given in a fight was a fight to like Evan Dunham, that draw. But that was a fight where like he gassed himself out, going for the finish. Dunham underrated, especially toward the back half of his career, wasn't getting credit. Also, a much better wrestler than given credit for. Teamed up with Kyle Griffin at that point of his career and quietly really improved his wrestling. Dunham, who already had good jiu-jitsu, and most of that control time was against the cage anyways. Again, like if you actually go and watch, not just look at the stats, you go watch the footage, like who is actually controlling Beneil. So it's essentially scrambles and striking, and even though scrambles can tire Beneil Dariush, scrambles Tsarukyan also opens his back up and scrambles, so there's a give and take there. So now after that long-winded analysis that I grouped and talked about, let's kind of focus it in now to the striking, which I think is going to decide this thing. And, I was really high on Tsarukyan, and I've been really high. This is the first time I'm picking against him. You can track back to years, even before the Makhachev fight. You hear me talking about this guy saying, I'm picking Makhachev, but he's not going to get it done inside the distance. It's going to be a competitive decision. And so even before the Makhachev fight, I was saying, watch out for this dude. And I was calling him the dark horse and this and that. And I know a lot of people in the analyst community, people I respect even, weren't too high on him, not putting his game together, a little bit too back foot, even though I feel like he's gotten more aggressive and he's gotten better at pressuring in recent performances. That being said, and I don't know if it's for the same reasons, I try to, keep my filter clean and whatnot, but, and perhaps it's coincides with me picking against the guy, I guess, but watching the last fight, even though I got both their last fights right, and and now I'm picking the opposite, right? I picked Do Bronx in round 1. I faded Benny. Now I'm supporting him in a not popular spot, which is, you got to be able to do that, and it doesn't mean I'm going to be right, but these are the things you have to be able to do. Yeah, you got to be able to jump off the trains, on and off the trains, from a gambling perspective. And with Tsarukyan against Joaquim Silva, I picked him and I know he was a big favorite, so this one's not as impressive. At least Dubronx was a dog. But I did pick round 3, and I'm inside the distance in round 3 to get even to plus money angles on Tsarukyan. That being said, when I went back to watch that fight, I really didn't like it. I know he's thrown axe kicks and weird stuff before, and I know he's kind of lax setup for this power side kicks. Before Tsarukyan obviously has much better kicks off the lead side. A lot of Russian or Eastern European style or trained kickboxers tend to punctuate well off their lead side. I know he's Armenian, trained with a lot of Russian and Eastern Bloc fighters. So I guess I'm just lumping in. I'm sorry, but yeah, what I saw in this last fight though was I liked it better. It almost looked better when he was coming out of Tiger Muay Thai. I don't know who he's not Tiger Muay Thai. Sorry. Well, yeah, I guess it was Tiger Muay Thai, but it was with the Higman brothers initially. It was before Bang Tao, right? And I liked that version of his striking better almost. Whereas he was like. He doing something that even my crappy ass was beating myself up for, where you kind of just walk into the clinch and you kind of just get lit, you kind of almost zombie in, and sometimes it's a habit of you trying new things, and I get that, but man, he was cruising for a bruising well before Joaquim Silva taxed him in round 2 or 3 and busted him open. Now Joaquim Silva's not a southpaw, but what's also of note about that drop is that it was a left hook, it was a left hand, right? Because he kind of falls into that left side. Death taxes and left-sided strikes, the dipping, right? Now, when he gets comfortable with southpaws, when I went back to the southpaw samples, again, Tsarukyan is 1-1. But I also looked at the Gamrot fight, because Gamrot also went southpaw a lot. And he gets better with his entries, he likes his open stance body kick like he does with the Gamrot fight. But, even looking at other fights, like with OAM, for example, he will double up. He'll do the basic prod, rear, rear kick, prod. But then he'll kind of get more comfortable and he'll kind of throw the rear and then double up on the rear like a Volkanovski and then change levels off to that kind of weak side to get away from the power kick, which is really smart. and it would certainly serve him well in this fight. Not that Dariush doesn't have knees or stuff that he can throw from that side, but Dariush is very strong from his left side, right? Whether it's his punch, his knee, his front kick, or his tie kicks to the body and head. Those are Dariush's main weapons. But luckily for him, those are the main lanes. Like I said, death taxes and wrestle boxers dipping in the southpaw power lanes, right? And you see in the southpaw report I tweeted out, you see all those close calls. And my guy Ghost, shout out to my guy Ghost, he actually had a thread first of the week, one of the first ones I saw. He tagged me. I assumed him to give me credit, so I appreciate it. Of course, my OCD stuff had to throw the smile. You gave him the retweets and the love that he deserves, but I had to not read too deep into the thread or anything. But I knew exactly, because he's a smart man, and you guys are smart people in the chat as well. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about, and I know exactly what Ghost was talking about just as soon as I saw the glance of him tagging me in that thread. So when I went and did my own southpaw studies, I saw those as well, definitely. And again, Tsarukyan, back to why I played him rounds 3, 4, and 5. He does get better as the fight goes on, but there are just some really bad in-baked habits, and I feel like Dariush is going to be able to be live for at least the first 2 rounds, if not halfway into the third. So part of me was like, if I'm playing Dariush, do I play the under in association, under 3.5, and maybe you can double dip on rounds 3 and 4 if Tsarukyan wins in those rounds, and you're covered for the Tsarukyan early stoppage. And if you're picking Dariush, you're essentially picking him to get it done by round 3, right? Which is my pick, inside the distance, knockout, round 2. But the under is only plus 100. It's not as sexy. You're not buying that much more coverage compared to what you're getting, leaving on the table money-wise for the price. And again, I'm picking Dariush. From a betting perspective, I don't even have to pick him to play someone who opened as a slight favorite and was now, at one point plus 270, but I got him at plus 260. Let me just throw a unit on that, because then if he wins, it's over a unit and a half profit after you give back the 0.99 units for the 3 Scottie Pippens, round 3, 4, 5 Tsarukyan, right? I think the lowest paying one for Tsarukyan, I think, was like 800 or 900. I'm going to try to get a better line at, I'm waiting right now for it, at BetMGM. I'm going to see what they give. But I calculated this at the lowest line that's available to me, which is usually the lowest line that's available because I get crap numbers. And again, I always average and round down rather than rounding up. One of the few guys who do that, I know, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But no, but yeah, so I did it at a low number. I think like a plus 800 or whatever, something like low. And even that, I think still gets you like 1.3 units of profit, over a unit, maybe not quite a unit and a half, but close to it, after you give back the unit, for Dariush and the other round props, vice versa. And then of course if Tsarukyan wins in like round 4 or 5, then it's like a 3 unit profit in round 4, and then that's what it is. And then if he wins in round 5, it's a 5 unit profit. So if I'm wrong, and Tsarukyan wins in his hot rounds, then I actually will make more money than being right. So that being said, if Tsarukyan knocks Dariush out early, which is a possibility, right? Dariush's been knocked out with left hands. Tsarukyan, that left hook to Yagos. He's got strong left kicks. It could happen. Or decision. Not Dariush by decision, we still cover. But if Tsarukyan wins by decision is my main worry. But I don't know if we get that far. Tsarukyan himself, another reason why I bet round 3, because he knows he needs to make a statement. He keeps getting these crap matches, and he needs to make himself undeniable. Again, it's the brave Brazilians having to face him, or the Middle Eastern facing the Brazilian, or the Middle Eastern guys facing each other. That's how it always goes, folks. I don't need to. Yeah, don't need to, whether we're looking MMA or outside of it, we know how it goes for certain folk, right? Jesus Christ, ain't that the sad truth? Sorry, folks, it's depressing out there. But yeah, I'm gonna be taking Dariush. Hopefully, he won't, kill the buzz if he does win and start, trying to convert everybody. It's not like it's not like he's in Abu Dhabi this time, so it won't be super awkward. People will just be drunk in this case. But, we'll see. Maybe he'll ask for a Tesla truck or something stupid. But I I'm a fan of Dariush the fighter, and even though I've picked against him plenty, I also have picked him obviously as well. Shout out to my guy John Rico, big Dariush's biggest fan. So yeah, I'm taking Dariush here. Done. All right, we'll talk about that one next. Okay. You guys have some questions on that one, so I'll just sneak those in real quick since it's apropos, and then I'll shoot down the rest of these faster. But Kato Kayagoku, what do you think of Arman's lead left high kick against a southpaw? Might not be as valuable since Beneil's lead shoulder is in the way. Yes, but also you could still get it there. Like Rashid Magomedov would throw his in a certain way. Now I haven't seen, so you can throw it in that way where countering going backwards and whatnot, or kind of giving it over the shoulder. Rose Namajunas and Gaethje have similar versions of these where they kind of work it off the cross, and it's almost like a check hooking, like lead high kick, right? And Tsarukyan will throw stuff that doesn't make sense as far as kicks from that side. Like that's one thing I forgot to mention. He'll also throw spin kicks, but he throws it to the close side, which is weird. Like, yeah, he's still throwing to the liver side, which I appreciate. Like you could tell he really only likes to spin from that one side, which I do too. But again, as a guy who's open stance, who likes to throw that very same spinning back kick, granted I'm coming from it backwards as a southpaw, but I don't throw as a southpaw. You think it would be more natural to, spin, pivot off your right and throw to your left, If you're not being picky about liver or spleen side, then that makes more sense. Like, no, that's the close side. And that's what Tsarukyan does the opposite way. Granted, the liver's on that side, but it's a little more closed off, right? It's a little more risky. He actually hits Gamrot with it. I actually put the one time it's successful. I actually put that in his highlight. But he missed about 7 over the course of 3 fights prior. Or 2 fights prior, I should say. Maybe 3 if I'm counting the prior examples within that, the southpaw examples of said Gamrot fight. But he'll do that, whereas, the way I've always done it, from my Taekwondo days to my karate days to when I'm sparring, even in MMA, because I'm throwing a lot of the rear left kick, if they move back and I want to kind of chase forward, that kick, that knee, the front kick, the tie kick or whatever, it'll turn into a step, and then you're pivoted to spin, especially if they're trying to spin out on you the wrong way, and you can kind of catch them. Yeah, like, Tsarukyan will do it with really high risk, little reward. And I don't remember if it was specifically spinning to the close side, but, Weidman, Rockhold, Grasso, Shevchenko, like, these are recipes for fight-changing disasters, right? So that's another thing. That's another thing. Another reason, and these are things we've seen, whether we've seen them happen in fights, whether we've seen Tsarukyan, be one part of the example in it, or we've seen, Dariush be the example of what we're talking about. And that's what I base my fights off of, the evidence, right? How I'm going to pick it. So that's why I'm going with the underdog in Dariush there. Drain Lamina, Dariush, very good and controlled. Top game, do you think it will stop the athletic scrambles of Tsarukyan? I mean, it could, even though, again, Tsarukyan's a better wrestler, I would probably be more surprised to see Tsarukyan gain sustained controlled sign on the mat for the reasons I said earlier than Dariush, right? Like, I would be less surprised to see Dariush, even though it'd be more surprising to see Dariush get it there, perhaps. If you were to control it there, like, no, I wouldn't be too surprised. Ghost says Dariush has some pretty good outside trips along the fence in the Fajeda rematch. He does. I believe you highlighted some of those. Another reason why you should be following my guy, Ghost, G8 or 9H6ST21. I imagine it is a version of that on Twitter, or you can just go at DanTomMMA and scroll down my timeline to find him. And something I really like, which I didn't show in any of my threads with Dariush, is his left overhand into his left knee. Yeah, it's really excellent. Him and Trinaldo probably have the best ones at 155. Really good move right there. Synchro Wing, I know Beneil is annoying, but do you think that Beneil versus Islam is a really interesting matchup? Just sucks that the UFC can't sell since Oliveira KO'd him. I do, actually. I do. And, it's crazy. Obviously, I believe that Tsarukyan beat Gamrot, even though Gamrot has the W. We know Gamrot loses his way to victories. But it's weird. As much as I'm like Mr. Tsarukyan Dark Horse, don't sleep on Tsarukyan ahead of the first Makhachev match. Tsarukyan beat Gamrot. Gamrot loses. Gamrot lost to Turner. Gamrot lost to Tsarukyan. Despite me being that guy, I also think Gamrot has a better chance at Makhachev than Tsarukyan. I believe that Dariush has a better chance at Makhachev than Tsarukyan, and just because it'd be fucking weird and hilarious, I would say that maybe Gamrot has a slightly better chance, even though the evidence actually would show Dariush. Not that either would matter because they both would be big underdogs to Makhachev, but I don't know. Part of me was like hoping they were going to give Makhachev or Gamrot a last minute replacement, just because he's just so annoying to face. You know, Dariush was talking about it. He's like, he was my hardest opponent because I couldn't break him. And Dariush like dropped him at the end of round 3, and he was glad it was over, he said. You know what I'm saying? So that says something, right? For what that's worth. All right, co-main event time. We have Jalen Turner, Mr. Turner, minus 198. Bobby King Green, plus 164. It says you can find him still at plus 180. I wish I could have found that number. It was saying plus 185 yesterday when I bought in, but at BetMGM, but all I could find was plus 175 all day, so what the fuck's up with that? But yeah, no surprise, I went with Bobby Green here. Again, death taxes and fading older fighters, right? Even if it's 6 days notice. Like, how many times do I got to tell y'all? And I know you're going to say, oh, but what was it, the prelim fight or whatever the other day, that fighter that came in on short notice, and you picked them. You didn't bet them, but you picked them. That was our boy, right? Yeah, that was a guy who I'm pretty confident is going to end up being really good, who doesn't have to cut a lot of weight, hence he's going to be fighting at 155, and was already in shape, versus a guy who, you know, as of right now, I don't want to put anything on the Alaska FC product, Euros Medic, but yeah, you know, not the most impressive sample size, and you know, hasn't graduated out of the lower level echelon ranks yet. The lower level doesn't matter as much. It arguably matters more at the higher level. You think, oh well, the Volkanovskis they're better than the Oral Buys and Mediches, so I don't get it. Like, yeah, well, the problem is their opponents are better than the guys they're facing too. Their opponents are on the highest or the higher levels of what we're talking about here, even with Turner and Green, right? So yeah, it actually matters in these scenarios, especially when weight cutting is involved too. And again, Turner is a guy that he's already due to outgrow 155. It was a worry that I had with him as far as why I was really just sketched out of that. And I felt round 2 was the hot round. And sure enough, both guys almost finished each other in round 2 in Hooker versus Jalen Turner. So again, analysis wasn't too crazy there for what that's worth. I think that was my only plays. I think I just took flyers on both guys to win in round 2. Hot round. Get your hot rounds, yeah? And again, didn't cash, but at least I wasn't crazy. Speaking of which, I may or may not have a Patsy Cline highlight. Who does an MMA highlight to Patsy Cline? Me, that's who. You can guess who it's going to be to and what song. But listen, this was also taking me so long this week. I went through like Bobby Green's whole shebang. But yeah, like the part of the reason why, not just because that was a crazy volatile matchup stylistically, but the intangibles of that matchup was something that I cited. And I cited because, you know, it came straight from the horse's mouth, Turner himself, is that his weight cut really depends on his performances. We've seen some inconsistent versions of Jalen Turner, win or lose, and he cites those to his weight cut. Now, he only, I think, has missed weight once, probably going to be twice by the time you guys hear this. We'll see if the match is still on. Hopefully he's not killing himself too hard to where we don't have a match. You know, I don't know why the UFC just didn't give this guy a catch weight. There's a whole politics, right? And I hated it because I feel like we're going to get another sneak attack Bobby Green, but then Turner's kind of giving away his cards at the UFC, you know, strong-armed him into showing up, which is nothing new, folks, by the way. And again, you guys want so many fights and this and that. It's like, this is what we have to pay for. So I'm almost like, that's what most makes me not excited. We're like, oh, it's a stacked card. It's like, you know, like, I mean, the people in the know, obviously, but like, you know, like the UFC Filtered podcasts and stuff, they're like, oh, I don't know why this is a stacked card. Like, you guys don't know why? Really? You don't know why? Because they actually had to try, because there's an actual audience for this one, because we've been doing fucking warehouse fights. It's 2023, and like we're still having fighters go, oh, my last 5 fights with the 8-pack, this is my first one. There's still like fighters who have yet to fight in a crowd in the UFC yet. You know, it's pretty silly, but anyways, but neither here nor there, I guess. But like, yeah, like, sorry, I'm all over the place on this one, folks. I'm just trying to get through. But yeah, Turner taking the fight on 6 days' notice. He's already due to outgrow the weight class. Yeah, his fights are dependent on, how good his weight cut goes anyways, which scares me, honestly, just like betting Turner fights going forward at 155. Because I feel like he's growing out of the division. Now he's going to fight on 6 days. Like, there's no way he's making weight. This is silly. I'm surprised the line didn't flip at this point. You know what I'm saying? That being said, if this was a full camp, I'd be picking Jalen Turner. Bobby Green is 4-6 against UFC level southpaws. I tweeted out a pretty detailed southpaw report on him as well, on top of all the other Bobby Green stuff I've already done and the stuff I got coming down the pike. A lot of those were early in his career, short notice, decided within the grappling context, yada yada. But I did break down the more relevant striking samples of the back half, the good and the bad, right? And his game essentially stays the same. And he fights actually really well against southpaws, but at the same time, there is classic southpaw stuff that bothers him. Now, kicks not as bad. Leg kicks more than you would think. But body and head kicks, he's actually the better body head kicker in open stance matchups. It's something that, even myself being a big Bobby Green fan, I almost forget how much it is because it comes out way more actually in the southpaw matchups. So when I went back and just was strictly watching those first, it really stuck out to me more. How much of an underrated kicker that he is as far as the open stance goes. And then he will close stance up as well. And he boxes and jabs well from those. But obviously, when you match the stance, southpaw celebrate it. I know how that is. When an orthodox person tries to go southpaw with me, I'm like, thank you. I've been waiting to throw regular leg kicks like all the other boys do. I feel like Pinocchio. I'm a real boy. And you get to, throw the leg kick and stuff. And then another thing I always talk about, particularly in the southpaw versus southpaw mirror matches, is that the left crosses become way more potent. Like, people look dumb defending it, and I can tell you, even the good veterans, the pros out there, probably feel dumb, if they're being honest, because there is just something weird about a striking lane, whether you're a switch dancer, a dedicated southpaw, or you're switching to be cool. Your defense ain't as good, man. It's weird. You're not used to seeing that lane as much. And you look at, Dustin Poirier and some other people, Trinaldo, the success in round one he has. Still think Bobby Green won that fight, though, by the way. There's so many fights he probably should have won. But, that mirrored 2 is definitely going to be there. He hasn't fought a lot of guys with a check hook, but, Coke hit him with a good one. And just, honestly, it's not even the kicks. I think the kicks is jumping out to most people. For Turner, probably because of his length and stuff, and we still have that Dan Hooker head kick baked into our mind that's been floating around online from his most recent fight. But it's actually Jalen Turner's surprisingly fast. He's not just some long, tall guy. He's actually surprisingly fast, especially obviously in the first round. And he's got really quick counter triggers, like good eyes and exchanges for that. And I think those are what's going to really wreak havoc on Bobby Green early. But if Jalen Turner can't finish Bobby Green, or create a finish off of those, like a club and sub, or put him out, then I feel like Jalen Turner's win conditions and chances of winning just in general dramatically decrease once this hits the end of the first frame. Not even the start of the second, once it hits the end of the first frame, right? You got to think this guy's just going to be killing himself to making the weight, ballooning back up right after. Bobby Green puts on a pace. He's a consistent body worker. He's only going to be working the body more because of the natural stance and because of the height. Now, Bobby Green, surprisingly, though he's fought everybody, has not fought a lot of tall or long guys as long as Turner. Turner does hit that, he's right on that, it's 71 to 76.5, I believe, or 77.5, so I believe it's right on that 6-inch mark where the reach does technically make a difference as far as like statistical samples from, granted, they're about almost a decade old at this point, but you guys know, we're talking about Fightnomics. Shout out to Reed. But it's obviously measurable. But Bobby Green was getting ready for Dan Hooker, who is, doesn't fight southpaw as much, but Hooker will switch stances and has that similar length. So for what it's worth, at least he was getting ready for that. But I'm going to be clenching the old b-hole in the first round there for Bobby Green. But, as he said, he goes, we're both from San Bernardino. Of course, he dropped some N-words in there, but he was like, he knows what time it is. And I just was laughing at that part where he was like, the way he said, he knows what time it is. I was just like, oh my God. And then Turner looked miserable. Like, again, I'm surprised the line's not swinging more. But, again, MMA gamblers, soggy dicks over 33. We know how it goes. They're just not, they're like Jared, they pick fighters to bet on like Jared Fogle picks potential dates, you know what I'm saying? They're too old! Sorry, terrible, Dan, that's awful! I'm sorry, folks, I'm sorry. I haven't slept much. You're getting raw and uncut. Jesus Christ. Alright, phrasing. Yeah, we're gonna go Bobby Green there. I put 1.5 units on him at plus 175. And here's what I'm waiting on. I can get it at plus 1,800 at one house round 3, but I want to get plus 19 or plus 2,000 potentially. So I'm going to wait to see what BetMGM drops and see if they drop a plus 14 instead of plus 1,000 for split decision, because if it does go to decision, something went wrong. Judges hate Bobby Green on a Bobby Green style on a good day, much less in Tejas. You know what I'm saying? So some fuckery could be afoot there. So I don't blame anybody for those split things. If I play those, I want to play them at decent numbers, and I'm going to do a quarter unit apiece, so that'll equal 2 units of exposure total for Bobby Green. But yeah, I'm gonna pick Bobby Green for this one. That's what I was missing. So he is not beyond being hit from the southpaw stuff, like I said and cite in my southpaw report. If you want a visual to go along with this, folks, at Dan Tom MMA on the artist formerly known as Twitter. But ultimately, regardless of the stance, what really seems to be a difference maker, especially in the finishes, whether it's southpaws or not, is having cage corralling footwork and good cage corralling footwork to corral a guy like Bobby Green, A, and B, it has to be in conjunction with extended exchanges. You know, you look at both the times Poirier dropped him. You look at the Dober progressions up until he finishes them. These were the things. These are pressuring guys who have a career of pressure fighting. Have either decent or in Poirier's really good corralling footwork, shifting footwork, right, and are really good at extending combinations like Poirier. Or in Dober's case, you at least have the stupid durability chin to take the shots and figure it out the hard way and learn learn as you're going, so to speak, as he did in that fight, right? Figure it out as he was going. With the help of his corner, Elliot Marshall, really good cornering in that fight. And if you look at Jalen Turner, again, he's got these really sharp counters and that fast speed and those really good eyes in round 1 like I was talking about. But if you look at it, it's like 1, 2, head kick, right? And these things alone could fuck Bobby Green up. They could win him the fight. Don't get me wrong. But none of those examples I just gave, none of those were extended combinations. I mean, they were barely combinations, right? I mean, these are it's a 2.1 average, right? Of shots he's putting together, not even 3 or 4 or 5, right? And that's what you really got to do as far as extending the combinations and having that footwork. Whereas Turner, when he is, when he's got a guy on his heels and it's like he's not, maybe facing, the best fighters in the world, which, you look at his resume, it doesn't age that well. And, some of those guys, even the really cool looking dudes like the Brock Weavers of the world, okay, maybe he was, was able to pressure and kind of get the ball rolling on those fights. But in general, Turner's more of a stick and move, wait to see what the fight comes, let's feel it out, I'll counter you, let me get some reads, and that's kind of like Bobby Green's game too, don't get me wrong, Turner, being as long and dangerous as he is, it's very dangerous to play that game with him, but at the same time, that's kind of Bobby Green's game. That's not the game that necessarily gets Bobby Green off his game. You got to pressure, footwork, extended combinations, and Turner, at least reliably or consistently, does not do those. Does he do it in instances? Can he do it? Sure. He's still young. He's going to get better, folks, but he didn't even have a camp. He was just skateboarding and took this fight on like 6 days' notice. Bobby Green. All right. I'll get you guys up to the main card. I just want to get through this. Let's see who's next here. Rob Font. Devison Figueiredo. Rob Font minus 135, Figueiredo plus 114. Yeah, a little bit of money coming in on Figueiredo, but not the line turning. I thought we were going to get down to even money, if not maybe a flip, because, maybe Figueiredo's aging out for all the Jared Fogle MMA gamblers out there, but Figgy used to be the talk of the town. Like, this guy could barely make it to a fight without, having to pull out from, too many people giving him handies and stuff, because it just, seriously, MMA gambling community would just, they would just, sorry for language alert, they come in their pants every time. They couldn't break him down. All they could do was come in their pants. I was like, hey, ever listen to a show? Didn't matter if it was good people, friends of mine, but all I'm hearing is people come in their pants on this guy. It was ridiculous. You couldn't even get solid analysis. Of course, he was, a really fun fighter that many of us were excited about, especially if you saw, his regional Brazil footage where he was fighting even really wilder and weirder. That's where he kind of stuck out. Almost had a weird kung fu style. I used to describe him as, I'm this guy have kung fu or something. This is really weird. You go watch his regional footage, right? Of course, he steps it up from his debut, and then goes and trains with Team Alpha Male. Has been working with Fight Ready, so really improving his skills. But between the weight cuts, having to face Brandon Moreno forever, it's hard to see where he's at. All we could really judge by were those fights, and it felt the weight cuts were half the battle, win or lose. They were weird fights, win or lose. And they were inconsistent, Some fights he's he's on the calf kicks and the whole Fight Ready deal, this is good. That he took that kicking initiative. I believe, what was it, the second fight? Or no, maybe Moreno took the kicking initiative in the second fight. But yeah, you would just see kind of more passive. He was that indestructible Figueiredo in that first fight that he should have won. By the way, that was a draw. He looks weird in the second fight. I got to go back and refresh the third and fourth. I'm in the middle of this right now. I actually just got done rewatching some Rob Font footage. And I was in the middle of Rob Font versus Sandhagen, so the last of Rob Font. I was hoping to get this one out because, man, the dog shot definitely looks tempting, right? And I'm not saying that without the awareness of what it can do for, not expectancy bias, but what do you call? It's confirmation bias, right? You like a number and you start looking for things to justify the number, especially when you make the bet. So I didn't do anything like make the bet, but I'm so sensitive and respectful of confirmation bias that I try not to even say to myself or aloud that I'm leaning to a side. I want to run the tape first and then see what I say. But I will say that regardless of who I pick, even if I pick Figueiredo and bet him, I'll be rooting for Font. I'm a big fan of Font, big fan of Tyson Chartier and the New England Cartel. Really solid little small team, that I just can't help but love. I don't feel like they get enough love. And yeah, man, they could use some. They could, I know it's been more their lower end guys haven't been doing too well, but it'd be nice to see that camp get some success. And remind the masses again, another kind of, y'all must have forgot TM, so to speak. And it's weird, right? Because initially Oh, Rob Font, wild marauding Brazilians. We know his history there. But if you look at it, he's actually 3-3 against those guys, right? It's we remember Lineker, we remember Pedro Munoz, right? We remember Jose Aldo. But you forget, Marlon Vera, Tomas Almeida, and Douglas Dion Drugs. Shout out to my guy Brazchuk there. Douglas Da Silva de Andrade, right? He did beat those guys. I know those are the lesser impressive names, and even those impressive names, if you put into context, Almeida and Moraes, kind of punched their cards a little too hard. The Brazilian war horses getting in too many wars and kind of doing the opposite of the long-standing war horses where they kind of almost end prematurely because of the miles, right? I'm not trying to take away from those winnings or dump on those guys and take away from the win for Rob Font, but there was kind of that there, right? And I love me some Douglas Da Silva de Andrade, but, as good and as underrated as he can be, he also has a ceiling to him as well, right? So it's okay, well, he's 3-3, but, the 3 he won, there's that. Now, from the woo-woo superstitious perspective, he's went win-loss, which means he's due for a win if we're looking at him versus Brazilians, right? But of course, that's not how we can break down fights. That is just kind of a funny thing to note. Basically, this fight for me comes down to durability. Is Font durability? Does it start to take a turn? Because when is he due to take a turn? Right? I mean, Font. He's been in a lot of wars. Been doing this for a minute now. They're born in the same year, I believe, but like Font has slightly more fights. About a year and a half longer of fighting as a pro. In this situation now, he's cutting more weight, whereas Figueiredo's not having to cut the weight. Does that help his durability? Because in that series with Moreno, his durability looked to be suspect too. Inconsistencies aside, and that was a major problem because like his durability's always kind of looked insane, right? For Figueiredo. So does it get better? And part of me wants to, still lean toward him. I'm going to reserve a pick. You guys got to check me on quick picks and prognostications, but I'll tell you what, give you a basic outline here. Again, it's durability, and the reason why I feel like I'm leaning toward him, but we'll see if I end up picking him, is because, again, I know I've been calling for the Peter Yan fight since like late 2018. That's because Figueiredo was a flyweight. He didn't even win the title then. Yeah, because even back then, I am not pumping me up. Anybody with two eyes really should see the dude's a bantamweight. Font's going to be bigger than him. Font's a big bantamweight. So that is kind of trepidatious, right? You should be we should be smarter with our money, perhaps. Wait and see someone in a new weight class. But then at the same time, he should be projected to do well in this weight class. This is the weight class he should be fighting in. He is older, but he's not, ancient yet. He's probably still has another at least a competitive 2 years, 36, 37 athletic outliers. 38's when you're really done, obviously, as a bantamweight. No matter how athletic you are. But then on the other hand, right, again, back to what I said, Font is a really big bantamweight, big fists. Decent reach, not like crazy reach on him, just like a couple inches. I think they're like pretty much even in leg reach and only, a couple inches shorter. Figueiredo is 5'5" to Bob Font's 5'8". But yeah, so those are kind of tricky how it lines up, and durability, because it's tough because obviously the jab, and it was, I think, not so much the jab, but also it was like the hooking and the countering nature of the jab, whereas Font has counters, but they're more from his right hand, which are super freaking powerful, obviously, and he changes it to uppercuts and crosses, whereas Moreno was more like a jab and then pull you into a hook or pull you into a counter or hooking off the jab, offensively coming forward. So there were different layers and different beats, and that could really force, as I wrote in my previous analysis, that dynamic really forced Figueiredo to walk a fine line, right? How does that fare with a bigger, longer, more powerful jab? That being said, they're both really durable, so it's hard to say, but like, I would argue maybe Moreno's more durable. I mean, you just see how much damage that guy's taken, and even though Font has taken an insane amount of damage, right, in his fights, and shows that he can still keep going, it's body punching that's strange, and Figueiredo said something really smart. So part of me is like, oh, is he going to wrestle on leg kicks because Rob Font jabs, and wrestling Rob Font is still, even with his improvements as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, it is still a pathway to victory for him, and fight ready, and some of their main tactics outside of good game planning with Santino DeFranco or Henry Cejudos and the like, Eddie Cha. You also get improved leg kicks, improved wrestling, certain things we notice from kind of the fight ready camp, right? So maybe that's the obvious answer, and that would be nice because we know Figueiredo can kick the legs, even though some fights it felt like he forgot about that. And he does have underrated wrestling, even though he felt like a natural bantamweight, he also felt like a guy who enjoyed muscling around smaller fighters. So how much does he maybe enjoy or want to do that at bantamweight? We'll have to see. But honestly, I think it's the body work. And it's something that he's always done really well with kicks and punches. It's going to be really asking for it, not just the legs, but the body. Again, a long fighter, long stance, long jab, really get under, slip around, and ripping those counters, right? And Figueiredo, I know you take interviews with a grain of salt, but he said that himself. And it's, again, something that I've noted in all, any of my Rob Font breakdowns in the last few years, is that the archetype that gives him the most trouble is fighters who can consistently counter and work the body. And that is Figueiredo. He does counter and he does work the body. I'd say he works the body more consistently than he works the legs. And most of his counters are to the head. And a lot of his, setup shots and power shots are to that body. And let's mix that in. Say if he's pressuring, and if he's pressuring, we'll probably get an answer real fast on how his durability is going to hold up. But if it holds up, and he's able to hit Rob Font back, I think he can force that panic mode that we've seen in the Lineker fight, the Pedro Munoz fight, the Marlon Vera fight. You bring that life or death out of kind of Rob Font, so to speak. And if I did pick Figueiredo, I would say it'd be round 1 or round 2 submission. It's like the guillotine, like similar to Pedro Munoz. He's got a really mean guillotine. I know Font's only been submitted once, but I honestly could see it going down very similar to that fight if Figueiredo, A, puts on that approach, and B, is durable enough to. I think that's the major dynamic. We'll see what side I fall on, and even if I do fall on the Figueiredo side, I don't know. I might only put a unit on him instead of the 1.5, or maybe I do put the 1.5 if my bankroll has the room for it on this card. Regardless if I pick Figueiredo or not, I think I may put Figueiredo by sub on my round robin just because it's sexy. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm leaning. But check me on Fight Day, MMAJunkie.com as well, always on Fight Day for my quick picks and prognostications. Sean Brady versus Kelvin Gastelum. I did some tape on this one earlier. There's not really much to put on, and I've already wasted so much time. Not wasted, but and it's not worth it to just clip the Chiesa fight. But yeah, he's 1-0 against UFC level southpaws. It's weird in that fight. So not only which I get, and that's part of the reason why I picked and played Bilal. For the pace, it was going to be a dog fight. He's going to fight for your money. Similar reasons here for Gastelum. I'm picking and I'm playing Gastelum, by the way. He may even be my best bet because, as I wrote down, something I haven't said in a while, and it bears worth repeating because it kind of just alone justifies the play. But we talk about certain archetypes, right? One of the few things, you guys were saying, death taxes and, wrestle boxers dipping into left kicks, which that dynamic is at play, and I appreciate people crediting me for that one. The only thing I've heard people say in the space that I think I might have said, because I don't think anybody said it before me, but I went off, especially because I was also one of the only people who really picked Holloway to beat Aldo that I remember seeing, and even before that, and that Holloway analysis and previous Holloway analyses, I always referred to him as a builder, and I feel like that really caught on. I don't know, maybe the people have been using that. I look like a fucking idiot saying that. That's the only thing I feel like I've said that's kind of somewhat caught on or whatever. But yeah, as far as archetypes that I have been really swinging home and saying for years, all the way back when Rick Story beat Thiago Alves, that was a nice bet, that cash. Durable southpaws who can wrestle. Anytime you have a durable southpaw who can wrestle, and there's a plus money next to their name. I haven't done the study, but if there was one trend where they gun to your head, you better tell me one betting trend in MMA that's won long term. I'm just like, durable southpaws who can wrestle, don't shoot me. Because it's a great fucking archetype. Wrestling, durability obviously gets you really far. Wrestling obviously gets you really far alone. The southpaw advantage, both from my hipster, contrarian, stylistic fucking seances, whatever the hell you want to call them, to just the proven facts, the southpaw advantage. People again, back shot to the Fightnomics, Reed Kuntz, who have actually run the numbers, the southpaw advantage, so to speak. You got all three of those? Yeah, man, there's a reason why I've always, love betting the Rick Stories or the Kelvin Gastelums, which is apropos right here. Because they will fight for your money. And Brady is a wrestle boxer, so you have that dynamic here. Now, Gastelum has really fallen in love with the 1-2s over the years and really gotten lazy, so to speak. And I know interviews are a grain of salt, take them with a grain of salt, but for what it's worth, I feel like Gastelum's finally noticing this and realizing the window is closing, using his exact words, actually. He said himself the window is closing. And, really taking it seriously. He's had bad luck with injuries, but, he's been really just hitting it hard. Went over to Thailand and trained. Fight ready. So between those, training, I think Bang Tao in Thailand, fight ready. Again, we just talked about the low kicks at fight ready. He's done plenty of kicks before that he kind of got away from his Rafael Cordeiro Kings MMA days. And training in Thailand, I imagine, had to also help bring that out. So between all those things, I got to imagine if there's one time, I'm not expecting like world beater Kelvin-Gastelum, but if he just like gets back to throwing the amount of kicks that we've seen him before, I'm not asking him to throw something he's never thrown or can't throw or we've never seen him throw. Like, no, he's thrown him plenty before. If he gets back to just throwing his hard body and head kicks, like, he's going to make Sean Brady so uncomfortable. That even if he's losing rounds and doesn't get him out of there, and he's even like, not losing, but, competitive rounds where he should be winning all the rounds on damage, but Brady's getting to his back, and now you're like, okay, are we having this argument again where the judge is going to fall kind of a deal, especially where we're at, what letter of the law are they going by, so on and so forth. You get yourself in a little tricky thing there. But what I noticed is, now with the Bilal Muhammad fight, made a little more sense. You got the live audience. I know the heat in that arena is not as bad as I made it out to be before. But with the Chiesa fight, you don't have the live audience. You got the Apex, the empty warehouse. And Chiesa, not that he's a big left kicker, but I've been one to stick up for his small, albeit, but small but steady striking improvements. Chiesa really didn't throw a lot in that fight, man. He was way, way, way too conservative. I knew one of the knees and one of the body kicks he did throw got him countered almost to a body kick or to a takedown, because that classic, if you do throw to the body, guys like a Brady and stuff, he's smart and he knows where his game's at. He's not going to waste those opportunities. You have length on him, but if he can use that length against you, he will. And that's a smart thing to do. You take that length away by having a nice counter that can take you to your A game, which is the ground, right? I get that. That being said, the fact that Brady still tired that much at round 3 without Chiesa even pushing was really, really telling. And say what you will that about Kelvin-Gastelum's back exposure. His strength and his both his strength and his wrestling ability technically is better than Chiesa's defensively, technique wise. So I got to imagine he's working those positions. I feel like Gastelum, don't get me wrong, we've seen him get submitted by stupid stuff. I remember just the Jack Hermanson fight, he just ran him what, he's just getting submitted by a leg lock. That could definitely happen here, but just for the numbers alone we're getting, the plus money side, he opened as a slight favorite. Now you're getting him as a slight underdog. Not a big flip, not a big number, but still technically a flip. It's more than a playable number. You're getting my favorite archetype underdog, a guy who's moving down in weight. I'm not too worried. A lot of these fights, you're like, oh, worry about this. Wait for the scale. I'm like, I guess if you're trying to bet Jalen Turner, which I don't know why you would be. I'm not saying Jalen Turner can't win. I like Mr. Turner, right? It's wait for the scale. It's I guess, but Gastelum is a kind of fighter who's is going to miss weight. Whether he misses weight or not, he's going to fight the same. And I think there's more of a chance of Brady not taking the fight if Gastelum misses weight, and we have to get a push on our bets if you're on Gastelum, then there is a chance of Gastelum missing weight, and then us people like myself who want to play him and want to wait for a better number. I don't think that's going to happen if he misses weight. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's going to be, it's going to be read as a disadvantage, nor should it be if you go by his trend. So, yeah, I went 1.5 units on Kelvin-Gastelum at plus 105. Oh, man. If you're betting favorites at UFC Austin, I feel bad for you, son. I got 95 problems, but chalk ain't one. Yeah, it looks like we're looking at a fucking bunch of plus money here. Spoiler alert, folks. So far. We'll see. Otherwise, it's going to be a funny clip to not count. Let's see here. But yeah, I'm going to go with Kelvin-Gastelum. There was something else I wanted to say on that one, too. Yeah, I don't know what else I wanted to say, but that's what I'm going to go with that. Main card, we got Clay Guida Let's see, what is Guida at? Plus 250, minus 310 is Guida-Silva. He's shooting up there. It's like pretty much like parlay piece material, like him, Soriano, and then you'd probably still need someone else. I don't think 2 is enough to even get you the plus money. Not that I'm a big parlay person, but I'm just thinking it all out for the parlay minded. Sometimes it is nice to have something like chalky to secure all your plus money things that I have running about right now. But we'll see. This one basically, again, I was already looking at Guida-Silva round 2, and then in his interview, again, take interviews with a grain of salt, but he's like, I'm planning to finish him in round 2 or 3. Take it with a grain of salt, but I actually like that. I hate it when you have these energizer money fighters for like where their only chance to win is if the favorite does something stupid and gives away a bad position or gasses them out trying to go for a finish that's not there, and then they end up like tiring and like having that mental game with like, oh my god, it's round 2. I was supposed to get him out in round 1. What is he still doing here? And you watch him, implode on themselves. And not that can't happen to a fighter who states pre-fight that they want the fight to go into 2 and 3. Talk is talk, right? But that being said, this is just another classic. What was it? The Roman Kopylov, all the Michailidis, Poatan, all the round 2. I know. Shout out to my guy, Master of Love, Derek Love, D-Love. That D-Love, but I know round 3s are still my favorites, of course, folks. But round 2 has been, we're having setting up shop and making some money, or the little bit of money I can make this year at least. Oh boy, I didn't even see myself near the top 20 of Top Master. I'm gonna go check that. I'm probably at the bottom where I should be, or should have been last year. I was surprisingly high llast year just by having a bad year, and this year was even worse. So it makes sense that I'm doing worse. So we'll see there. But yeah, back to the round 2 thing. It's classic, you're going to spend, it's a classic example of even if the fighter gets hurt, they're such a wrestle-heavy and sporadic fighter that they're probably going to survive and just try to force their game ugly against the cage for the first round and then get caught by something by round 2. Could it happen in round 1? Sure. If it does, it'll probably, be a sub, even though through amateur, exhibition, or pro, Guida-Silva does not have a guillotine win. He does have submission wins, what is his nickname? Is he one of the Neto BJJ dudes or whatever or something like that? But yeah, I think it's going to be by either a guillotine, even though he hasn't had one of those, because it's Clay Guida. That's what he gives. Or a rear naked choke, because it's Clay Guida. And that's what he gives. Round 2, though, is just too sexy to pull. And with sub, I wanted a higher number. I wanted a higher number on sub. I think it should be higher than plus 300. And plus 300 is the cutoff. I think we have to be at least plus 330 or higher to qualify for prop squad, so I'm not going to put that on there. So I actually, spoiler alert, I'm going to go with Guida-Silva round 2. You can find it as high as plus 500. The highest house available to me as of right now is plus 460. I'm going to wait for BetMGM to release their numbers. Of course, they will do it when I'm just the one moment I'm not available. They will. I'll stay up all night. And then they won't release it, and then they'll release it like when I take a nap between like 9 and 10 a.m. in the morning. Or I won't stay up all night and I'll wake up early, and they would have released it like 3 a.m. Oh, we got it early this time. Like, it's always some shit like that every time, but we'll see. But yeah, round 2 is going to be the play. And then I may put sub in there, especially if I don't parlay him, just to either perhaps double dip or, if he doesn't knock him out in the first round and it is a sub like I'm projecting, maybe throw sub in the round robin, right? So, like, maybe I got, like, a Dariush money line in there because I get limited sometimes in some of the houses, and I would rather kick for coverage. Maybe we do a green round 3, a Figueiredo sub, a Guida-Silva sub or something. You know what I'm saying? But the pick is going to be Guida-Silva. Puna Soriano, Punaheli, minus 310. Dustin Stoltzfus, really into Germany, plus 250. I saw Puna last week at the gym, always in good spirits. That guy, really nice, just really salt of the earth dude, man. All biased aside, though I do have to state it, he is a Hawaiian from Extreme Couture for what that's worth, but you don't need my bias to tell me that he is the deserved favorite here. Minus 120 is pretty much like inside the distance NKO. I think it's pretty much like even money as well, so it's like, what are you really buying at that point? It's not sexy enough to put in the round robin unless you're parlaying Puna. Cool. Or you're just like a madman and you're taking a shot on the dog, which I wouldn't because, again, the big cage. The big cage is also, I think, going to help fighters that I'm picking. It'll help Puna against a guy like Stoltzfus. It'll help Guida-Silva against a guy like Guida. It'll help Gastelum against a guy like Brady. I don't know who it'll help in Font-Figueiredo, maybe neither. It'll help Green against Turner because Green cannot be against the fence, and now he's going to have more room to work. And it may actually help out Dariush against Tsarukyan because Tsarukyan likes doing all his takedowns against the fence. That's his best way of exhausting Dariush. And Dariush actually has, even though he's a pressure fighter for a large stretch of his career, like we saw in the Gamrot fight, he does know how to and can be much more flexible when it comes to countering when the approach calls for it. So the big cage actually helps a lot of the sides, I would argue. Doesn't mean I'm going to be right. Doesn't mean my bets are going to cash. Those are two different things, mind you. No, of course not. But for what it's worth, that's how the cage terrain looks. I'm going to knock out the prelims real fast, but I want to clean up the chat first. Seeing some friendly faces making their way in. Okay, Jimmy Kudo, here's something I want to know. How does Bobby Green not get KO'd by high kicks with all the dips and leans he does? Fiziev should have chewed up his legs and beat him up with high kicks. You know, he gets hit with more leg kicks than I realized because they're mainly in southpaw for southpaw matchups. And I think that is a part of the reason why optically, like, you know, rounds Trinaldo might have got, even though I disagree, for example, if you go back and like watch round 2 of that fight. Haqparast, Poirier have success with leg kicks. But the funny thing is, Bobby Green, he never shows any effects from leg kicks. It's weird. It's really weird. He does have decent checking on leg kicks and body kicks. I incorporated some of those if you go to the Southpaw report that I just dropped on him. I incorporate some of those. And at the very end of the positive one where it's showing his game, I incorporated something that I talked about. Again, it's not that he can't catch kicks because, like you'll see in the Trinaldo sample size, he does, I forget the catch, but Ghost did a beautiful thread on it with using Zhang Weili in the Rose Namajunas rematch, where you catch the kick under almost instead of the normal up. You're almost like catching it under and lifting it and sweeping him, and he does that to Trinaldo. And Bobby Green's low-handed style actually kind of can parlay to that. And then there's another thing, which again, I felt bad saying it because I felt like I was advocating it. Like, I don't want any young martial artists out there, for whatever reason, is taking their advice from the show, or someone dumb as me. Don't go out there and say, I'm not saying go out there and block kicks like that, but I add in the very end of the sample. You see it with Drew Dober, who throws a cross and then the southpaw kick. When I talk about having the meat of the back or meat of the shoulder, so he's got the shoulder rolls for the punches and the slip-off line. But if his hand's out of position, and don't get me wrong, if you can just do a normal tie block, low, high, those are really good bets, right? You know, be a little more exact with the hand position. You know what I mean? I would preach more fundamental, traditional, go get training. But what Bobby Green does, and added to the end of the clip, is he'll almost let it hit his back meat, where it's like it kind of slaps there, kind of slaps over here, and kind of like with the punches. It's the same thing with the kicks. And that's not ideal. I will say it is better than taking it on the arms improperly, because even properly, kicking at the arms is obviously a Muay Thai tactic. You can still get your arms broken there, even just blocking the kick properly. So for what that's worth, it's arguably safer for your arms, but yeah, if you miscalculate it, they come off to the back of the top of your head. You play with it there. You really would think it, but that was the thing. Again, that's why I said it's more punches that I'm worried about with Turner than kicks. When I went back to look at it, like, because I went back to watch even against non-southpaws, like against Barbosa and stuff like that, and yeah, like his kick defense is actually pretty good. He's got really good awareness of that. You know, that's not really the problem. It's mainly low kicks, if anything, if we're gonna look at kicks. So you're not crazy to think that. That was my initial thought. But yeah. Makatsu Kayagoku, do you like Bobby Green body jabbing Fiziev whenever Fiziev would try and circle? Will that be applicable here? Yeah, he does body jabbing a lot, actually, even with southpaws. I know Fiziev isn't a southpaw, but he does it a lot. The Trinaldo sample I threw up there, he did it with Trinaldo really well. He mixes the jabs to hooks and the hooks to jabs. Shout out to my guy Ghost for that. Like, you actually see Bobby Green do that there. So yeah, no, it's definitely applicable. Synchro wing. Why do southpaws in general have problems defending the left cross from a close stance matchup? Does that apply to all southpaws or just Turner? I would wager it applies to all southpaws. all versions, natural, adopted, or whatnot. Because again, you don't see the matchup. You don't see it, right? So it's weird when those shots come at you. Because you see check hooks and counter crosses, but they're usually from orthodox. Or if they are from southpaw, it's because you're orthodox, right? It's very seldom southpaw versus southpaw. So it just feels really weird, and I can't explain it. It just feels so weird. You can almost, if you know what you're looking at, you can watch two southpaws from novice to even decent levels look fucking so uncomfortable in a sparring match. And even when they look comfortable and are good enough to look comfortable everywhere, when it comes to not even just throwing, when they even think about throwing their left cross, it's just this is so weird. Because not only are you vulnerable defensively, you feel vulnerable offensively because you're not used to seeing it, you're not used to throwing it, you're not used to any side of the equation, no matter what role you want to play. Ray Lamina, do you know the term Jack Slack has trademark? Black explosive. Is this a black explosive fight or just a regular fight? What are you talking about? Are you talking about Bobby Green and Jalen Turner? They are both deceptively fast. I'm trying to even it out, I'm trying to call like the guys like Yadong explosive, and I'm trying to call guys like like Bobby Green and like stuff like unassuming. I'm trying to level out that playing field. You know what I'm saying? Let us Asian dudes be explosive once in a while. You know what I'm saying? Let's stop. Because also it could be insulting too. I think not that Jack Slack's doing that, but like it's funny. It derives off of like typical sports commentary. Oh, you're so explosive. Like you listen to like traditional sports commentators who are saying that about it, tends to be about the same type of people. Just saying. It's like, can we talk about their skill maybe? I don't know. Matt Pauly, Dan, Tom, let's fucking go. Thursday Night Breakdowns. What up, Matt Pauly? I love seeing that Super Mario icon on my screen. Thank you for stopping by. And before we knock out the rest, Ghost says, saw IG that Figgy is back at fight ready, so we should expect him to try and calf kick off the jab and have good entries on takedowns, but it's Figgy who will do random things like throw elbows or go Imanari rolls, and he has horrendous reactions to the jab, which Font has a good one. I believe he meant to say. But Font also has been cracked at the end of rounds. Do you think that the right hand of the body under the jab will be a good idea for Figgy? So I absolutely, yeah. Body work definitely, and the fact that Figgy is already zoning in on it's a good sign. Mark Fellows in the house, Australia, baby. Jake Mitties. Mark Fellows, fun little card this one. Hope you're doing well. I am. I hope you're doing well, Mark. Synchro Wing. Kelvin was at Bang Tao and Fight Ready. Those are two great camps. Absolutely. Do you think that will help him in the Sean Brady matchup? Yeah, I definitely don't hate it, and definitely makes me feel a little better about my side. We'll see. Jimmy Kudo Builder, that's a good one. Ghost says lay a foundation. That's a good one. I think Jack Slack calls that strikes that evolve as the fight goes on and play off each other. Absolutely. Those are all correct and great explanations. Jimmy Kudo, hey, I remember that Ghost post about the Zhang Weili and Sancha style kick catch. Is that the cure to wrestle boxers dipping the power side? It's definitely a tool to have. Pascal, super chat. What? Way too kind, Pascal. You're already like one of the most loyal supporters, man. You're blessing me. Thank you so much. Big $10 in the super chat says, big thanks for the breakdowns. It has helped me so much throughout the years. Keep up the great work. B. Allen Craig breakdown was dead on. PYN for life. For life. That's you'll get the Scott Hall AO from me in the good mood and everything. All right, let's get through this. We're already at 137. Prelim's gonna knock these out real quick because I did not tape these, folks. Man, my computer's working fast. This thing's a workhorse. I'm not even hearing my fan. This is freaking great. Let's hope it sounds good on the other end, and hopefully it's looking okay for you guys. Miesha Tate's headline in the prelims. She's an underdog to Julia Avila. Did she open that way? I'm going to pick Tate. There's obvious bias there, but I do not feel good about it. I know she comes from my gym. We've been on military trips together, but, I'm not like, some friend or confidant or anything like that. I don't know Miesha well or anything like that. So to be honest, there's not a strong bias here. She just should be able to win the match, but at her state of her career, what we saw last time was not great. And Avila, for the holes in her game, she's very physical and seems like a natural fighter. I don't know if this is in order. I'm just going to try to cut through this, folks. Zach Reese, minus 230. Cody Brundage, plus 190. I'll probably go with Zach Reese, who reminds me of... I got to go back and read my contender series, but I'm pretty sure this was the Luke Rockhold light guy. Southpaw, looks like a big kicking game, opportunistic submissions. We just need to see more of him. Probably pick him, but I wouldn't play that fight, at least the chalk side of it. Drakkar-Klose minus 135, Joe Solecki plus 114. Oh, that's what I was going to say, because this fight reminded me of it. I'm actually going to... I didn't play it yet, although I played it on this fight. Draws, baby. I talked about the draws. We're at the end of the year. There's some times to play some draws, baby. Now, again, I don't know where Texas is at, but it does play certain roles as far as draws go. It will allow rounds to go on for fighters if they're durable enough to take the beatings. Both these fighters are durable, and so is Gastelum and Sean Brady for the most part, unless, if he is the one to fall, then we still cash because, we were on the Gastelum side there. But, Sean Brady could certainly, edge out 2 rounds that he probably shouldn't edge out, but maybe 2 of the judges have it that way, especially if they're more toward the older style criteria with, like, back control and stuff. This applies to Solecki. It's a very similar dynamic here, right? Even though it's not a southpaw. Gastelum and Drakkar-Klose, it's more the Solecki and, whatchamacallit, who's Gastelum, and Brady sides of the equation. And, again, Brady, even if he survives, like Michael Chiesa could have got a 10-8 if he tried a little harder in the round. I know easier said than done. I'm not trying to give shit to a guy like Michael Chiesa, believe me. Seems like a great guy, by the way. Or setting that pace earlier. Again, it wasn't the most torrid pace, and he was able to get Brady tired. I think Gastelum can get, even though I see it, he should already have secured a case for the cards by round 3. But I could see him get a big 10-8 round 3, maybe after getting backpacked for half the rounds and having to survive in the first 2 rounds, and you get a classic draw scenario, right? Again, judges, 10-8s aren't supposed to be given as frequently in these regions as opposed to the more up-to-date, like, and Nevada State Athletic Commission, California commissions, more likely to give a 10-8, right? And they hire guys like the Mike Bells of the world, despite getting a lot of shit for not giving a 10-8 recently, who has been statistically more likely to give the 10-8. So you can be like, well, we don't know if we're getting that in Texas, Dan. Well, that's the thing, is that a lot of these refs, judges that I cited, ones that were that I know, ones that attended the conference, they are moving in that direction, right? And B, even the air quote high level judges who are abiding by the air quote current letter of the law, the criteria, even though it's always under constant flux and needs to be, at least right now. As we see with those judges who are likely to give the 10-8s, they're not even that consistent on it, right? So what we do have is inconsistency in Texas, which can be one part of having a draw, right? You still need the 10-8s, you still need some kind of point deductions or whatnot. But here's the thing, is that you have officials in places like Texas. You got Kerry Hatleys of the world that go Kumite style, and they will let fight. They don't stop. Just like in Brazil, they don't stop things we talked about in Brazil, right? All the Easy Dos Santos things I've missed out on, right? Because if they're breathing, it's not a stoppage, right? Which was really annoying when you have inside the distance tickets, but that makes for obvious 10-8s for even if you're at a sketchy judging region or a judging region that is not as likely by letter of the law to give the 10-8. Well, when you have these crazy Kumite rounds where you let people almost die, make it stop, he's already dead type rounds, right? You almost put the judges in a sense that no matter who is judging, no matter what jurisdiction, it's almost an undeniable 10-8, right? You see what I'm saying here? So, I don't know if it's going to be plus 6,600 like I got for Drakkar-Klose and Joe Solecki, but, Drakkar-Klose, we've seen him give back exposure, but he's never been submitted before, really tough to submit. He's had guys like Beneil Dariush on his back. I could totally see Solecki, even though it's not the small cage, at least backpacking him 1 round, which means that Solecki either has to be competitive on the feet or in general, or the backpack 2 rounds, and if we don't get a finish, then he's definitely going to be tired by then. Klose can turn it up. He's not a good finisher, though, right? But at the same time, he does hit harder than Solecki. Solecki's not a great striker. So I could really see him having his way with Solecki on the feet for as long as it's on the feet. So I don't know, man. I feel like there's some draw recipes in these two, so I'm firing on it. I just put 0.17 units on each, which is insane. It's like over $1,000 each if those hits, $17. So that's what I'm gonna do for that. Hopefully, I explained myself well. I know I kind of went down that hole on another podcast. Milqueasel Costa minus 258. I like this guy actually. I like his kicks. I don't know if he's a dedicated southpaw, but he will switch. I think he lists himself as a switch fighter. Steve Garcia is a southpaw, and he's got a mixed record there that I will try to attach on the southpaw report for Hia 2-4. And I don't know. I'm probably gonna stay away from this fight. Part of me was thinking about maybe putting like Costa. If I did do a parlay, maybe I would do like Costa, Puna, and Joaquim Silva, and that's probably like plus 140, plus 150. But I don't know if that's worth it. Do I need to expose myself? Both guys could get it done in round one. But Garcia feels like he's either do or die in round one, or it's just an ugly fight to decision. That being said, I feel like even though Costa could get it down round one, it could go to decision as well with that dynamic with him. He does have round 2 and 3 stoppages on his record. And I do think he is the more well-rounded fighter. I do think he is the better put-together fighter. I do think he is the better fighter down the stretch for staying power as far as that goes. So if I were to do anything on this fight, if I got good numbers, if I've got extra money, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I have time to look into it enough, but I would just like sprinkle on, because Costa wins half by submission, half by knockout. I don't want to choose Parker. So instead, I'll just play 2 rounds. I'd play Costa in rounds 2 and 3. I would just sprinkle in those 2 rounds. Maybe a Scottie Pippen in round 2 and a .17 you in round 3 at a higher number. And then the way that balances out, you still get nice payouts on either of those for only a half unit total of exposure. That's all I would really recommend there, unless you want to take a dog shot. Then, do your thing. Rodolfo Bellato minus 380. Ihor Potieria plus 300. Oh, I wish I could cite my guy Fanyo, who does the best. There's about to be a duel. I don't know how to say it, but it's great. Go listen to the early prelims podcast for that one. I'll pick Bellato, but I'm staying the F away from that fight. Guiden-Turman minus 198. Jared Gooden plus 164. I feel like Gooden's a live dog, but I feel like everyone's kind of a live dog to Turman because we've seen him like just randomly implode. But I want to see him more at this weight before I put a nail in the coffin as far as an opinion. And, let's hope he's got the Glover's Garage love going on, the Poetan love going on by training with those dudes. So I'll probably pick Turman here and stay away. Veronica Hardy plus 154. Jamie Lynn Horth minus 185. I don't remember Jamie Lynn Horth, but I will probably pick her, even though, I like me some Veronica Hardy as well. Easy. And yeah, I think that is it. Typology keeps going by the wayside. Let me scan through here to make sure there's no, because I've been missing fights lately when I talk things. Okay, cool, I did it. How did we do on time? 1:46. We'll get it out of here before 2 hours. I'm gonna clean up the chat. We're gonna get the hell out of here, and I'll recap picks and plays, leans, and all that good stuff. Bam. Rain Lamina, PYN for life, for life. Hey yo. Sorry. Bischoff! Sorry. WCW fucking Bischoff. Pascal Ron. Hey yo, Checo. Chico. That's right. Oh, that's awesome. Yep. He even uses the hand emoji. Love it, Pascal. You're the man. Thank you. Synchro Wing, you're awesome, Pascal. Look, you even getting love from the chat. Look at that. You guys are so positive. I love you guys. PYN for life, Jimmy Kudo. That's right. I mean, Jimmy Kudo and Ghost. You guys are like Kevin. You guys are like my Kevin Nash and the. Oh, that makes me Hollywood Hogan. Oh, jeez. Don't worry, folks. I'm not gonna be dropping any bad words. No slurs here. But yeah, you guys are gonna be like my Kevin Nash and Scott Hall over here. There we go. Ghost up on the screen. Split draws. I love split draw bet of a generation wealth. I know. Split draws. Bobby Green, Texas. I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying? That one's got to be live there. We'll see. Synchro Wing. I asked this on Chronic Conversations, but does Veronica Hardy have a distinct advantage in having D Hardy doing her analysis for her? Kind of like Ghost doing analysis for her team. Unfair advantage or fair? On paper, I'd say yeah. I mean, if they have a healthy relationship. I imagine that extends into that area too. So, and I hope they do. I wish them the best. Synchro Wing Guru mentioned that while it's good to have a great analyst in your camp like Dan Hardy or even Ghost, the fighter has to have some value Because if you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. That's right. Or a Richard Nixon mask on a pig, it's still a pig. I think you should leave. Makatu Kaigoku, do you remember Steve Garcia running at Mahashate and getting open side countered? Yeah, that was hilarious. That was hilarious. Did you enjoy that at UFC 275? That was a funny one, yeah. Glad Steve Garcia is okay, but that was definitely entertaining. Lightmare Sworn, gotta say this since you just said it. Choose, Parker, choose! Willem Dafoe, baby. Dafoe, one of my favorite actors. He should break glass and everything. That's what I would do if I was a famous actor. I would improv it or write it in or improv it and force it into every movie that I'd have to break glass. So people you're a big Christian Bale fan or whatever you are, you'd be like, ooh, you'd be just watching and waiting. It'd be a serious movie and not even a funny part, but then you'd break the glass and there'd be a section of the theater that are just your hardcore fans just laughing there he did it. And then other people were like, what are you doing? Stop, we're trying to watch the movie. I don't know why I thought of that. Jimmy Kudo, I really want to thank everyone for being respectful and not being toxic. Yeah, no, thank you guys all for being awesome. Jimmy, Ghost, thank you guys for monitoring the chat. Please hit like if you haven't already. Share this out. 5-star ratings and reviews really do help. There are plenty of ways. I appreciate Pascal hitting the super chat, the super thanks. The PayPal donations are appreciated. Dan Tom and me as well. But really, you don't have to spend a penny to support the show. You just have to hit the like button. 5-star ratings and reviews. Really, just please go do that. You don't have to if you don't want your name written, just go hit the 5-star and let me know you did it, and I will just give you a quiet appreciation. Or if you want it publicly, we'll do it publicly and give it to you that way too. I appreciate you guys. Like this video, share it out, all that stuff. It is greatly appreciated. MixedMartialAnalyst.com for the Amazon and On It click-throughs, especially for your Christmas shopping. It really helps if you're buying anything at Amazon, whether it's for Christmas or not. And On It, whether it's for a gift for somebody or yourself, just go to MixedMartialAnalyst.com, scroll down, click on the banner at no extra charge. Small percentage of your purchase will be kicked back to this here program, and it really does help. It's one of the many ways you can support without costing you anything. But if you do, again, super thanks. If we hit a bet, super chat while we're live. And PayPal donations appreciated. Going to recap picks and potential plays, leans, and yeah. All right. Taking Dariush over Tsarukyan. Taking King Bobby Green over Mr. Turner. Taking, well, we'll see. I'm leaning toward Figueiredo over Font. We'll see where I go. Either way, my heart's going to be with Font, even if my money is elsewhere. May throw Figgy by sub-in to the round robin regardless of the pick. Taking Kelvin Gastelum over Sean Brady. Taking Joaquim Silva over, Clay Guida. That just went out on me. Hopefully it's just Tapology going out, not this broadcast is not interrupting. Taking Puna Soriano over Dustin-Stoltzfus. Really into Germany. Taking Misha Tate. I'm taking Misha Tate, not Masha Hate. I'm taking Misha Tate over Julia Avila. I'll probably take Zach Reese over Reese-Brundage, but stay away. I'll probably take Jakar-Klose, but Joe Solecki, just give me that draw, baby. Taking Melquizo Costa over Steve Garcia. I'll take Bellato over Potieria, the duelist. Taking Turman Wellington over Jared Gooden. We'll see. I'll probably end up taking Horth-Hardy. Who knows? Maybe I'll just take the dog. For some late potential tout master points. As far as plays goes, I'm on Dariush, plus 261 unit. Gastelum, plus 105, 1.5 units. Green, plus 175, 1.5 units. Waiting for better numbers on Tsarukyan round 3, 4, and 5, but expect 0.33 units on each of those for just under a unit total of exposure. Also going to look to throw quarter units on Green round 3, as well as Green by split decision, if I can find those at minimum plus 1,000 or over for the split prop, and plus 1,800 minimum or over for the round 3 prop. Looking at Silva round 2 plus 460, I'll pull the trigger either way, but I'm holding out for a possible plus 500. Just a half unit on that, as that is the prop squad pick. And yeah, for the round robins, we'll see. It'll probably be a mix of Gastelum money line, maybe a Green round 3, maybe a Figueiredo sub. and maybe a Silva submission as well. We'll see how that plays out. Again, at Dan Tom MMA on Fight Day. Quick picks and prognostications on FightDayMMAJunkie.com. Action Network for all my gambling analysis. At Dan Tom MMA. Hit the follow, like, share, subscriptions. It's all good. Hope you guys enjoy the fights this weekend. Let me know how the new show, if there's any smoother, if it's running smooth, looks smooth, sounds smooth, and all that. All the feedback is appreciated. Good luck on your picks and plays. And always, protect your neck.